Hello everyone, how are you? Today is December 30th and we're going to talk about how to warm up during this otherwise chilly season, unless of course you live near the equator or in the southern hemisphere, in which case, well, I guess it rocks to be you. So warming up for a video game is a bit different than warming up for a sport. They both share some similarities, but one of the main emphasis of sports warm-ups is to prevent injury. Sports requires a good deal of muscular exertion, and without proper stretching and warm-up, you can have issues. Video games, on the other hand, don't really have the same degree of muscle work involved, although I wish it did. I'm sure we'd all be Supermen if that were the case. You can play video games without warming up, and most people won't feel any physical discomfort or pain or anything like that, like you would if you were a runner, for example. So a lot of people skimp on the warm-up, or they just don't really think about it a lot. You will, however, play a lot worse and a lot less consistently without warming up. Okay, that's obvious, Sky. Let's get to the good part. All right. So warming up for video games has two key points. The first is to loosen up your hands, because the state of your hands, the state they have to be in, is a lot different in ordinary life than it is for a precise video game, right? The second is the thing a lot of people get wrong, and that is to make sure you're going into each play session in consistent environment as possible. One of the keys to improve is consistency, after all. If every time you sit down to play is different, you won't have an easy time picking out your mistakes and tracking your progress from one session to the next. The first part, the getting loose part, that's easy. You basically just need to play a game for a few minutes. Anything, really. Literally anything that requires precise mouse and keyboard inputs. In fact, it doesn't even have to be a game. But you will know when you're ready, when your hands feel flexible and, well, warm. It is called a warm-up for a reason, after all. Now, where I live is kind of cold, and I can tell I'm ready to stop warming up when my hands change from an uncomfortably cold temperature to pleasantly warm. Even if you live in a warm area, where it's during summer, though, you will still be able to notice the change in temperature and the overall flexibility of your hands. The second part, the consistency, like I said before, is where you're going to see a lot of issues. Now, let me get one thing absolutely, positively, 110% straight. Warming up is not practice. Again, warming up is not the same as practice. I see that misconception a lot, and it usually results in poor warm-ups. It doesn't matter what you do to warm up, just make sure it is something that you're very comfortable with, that comes easily to you, and it's the same every time. That's very important. Now, I made an aiming myths video a while back where I claimed that OSU, or wait, what is it? Oh, OS. OS is not a good way to practice your aim. That is a true claim. You won't improve your aim by playing OS. Despite that, I still use it as a warm-up before every Overwatch session. I've always played 2D games, like StarCraft, Warcraft, Han, and League, so I'm extremely comfortable with 2D mouse mechanics and movement. Because of the nature of the game, the levels are exactly the same every time. It also keeps stats, it keeps your score. I know what kind of scores I get when I'm cold, and I know what kind of scores I get when I'm fully warmed up. I generally play the same few songs and stop warming up when I reach a certain score threshold that tells me when I'm good to go. By doing this, while it doesn't have anything to do with Overwatch, I make sure I enter each and every play session in the exact same state. The fact that it isn't Overwatch doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is my hands are warmed up the exact same way every time. This helps me reach a high level of consistency when I play, and it results in a very steady rate of improvement. Have you ever felt like you're getting better, but then you get worse, and then you get better again, then you get worse, and you don't know what you're doing wrong? I've seen a lot of comments like that, especially lately, and it's because of improper warming up. When I make an improvement to my gameplay, even if it's slight, I retain that improvement, and it never gets that sort of fluctuating skill level. Another important thing to have is a consistent environment. I'll start with the obvious one, which is always play in the same place. You know, yeah, it's obvious, Sky, but yeah, you'd be surprised how many nomadic laptop players we have watching this video right now, talking to you guys. Then, always have your chair in the same place, as well as your monitor, your monitors, your keyboard, your mouse. Of course, you can adjust them if you think it's better a certain way, but make sure that adjustment, whatever it is constant. It's always the same. Now, you can be really anal about it and actually put tape or marker or something like that on your work surface to show where exactly your peripherals should go. I've seen some pros do that. I don't do that. I just go by memory and feel, but it really isn't a bad idea at all, especially if you get that never quite right feeling when it comes to your chair and keyboard, to just mark where they should go. Other consistency things that help out. Keep your in-game DPI the same as your desktop DPI. The different menu cursor speed can potentially throw you off. Also, limit your FPS, your frames per second, to a sustainable value. If you unlimit your FPS completely, you will get upwards of 30 to 60 FPS fluctuations in this game. Overwatch really does fluctuate about 30 to 60 frames depending on your computer. Having your input lag constantly shifting around by a few milliseconds like that is just objectively not good for your consistency. Of course, set your FPS limit as high as you can, as long as it stays constant. Now, mine is set lower than my machine should normally be at because of recording and background programs and all that stuff for YouTube, so don't use that as an example. The last thing, and this is something that most people don't think about, is your mouse pad. Now, I'm pretty sure 99% of the people watching this video, probably 99.9%, are using rubber mouse pads, cloth mouse pads, like the soft mouse pads. They're really normal. Everyone uses them. Now, first of all of these rubber mouse pads are a little bit different. You really need to be sort of in tune with your mouse pad, but they also need to sort of be broken and they need to be warmed up a little bit as well, because if you just go straight onto a cold rubber mouse pad, it will be different than if you've been playing for a while and it's kind of, I guess, a warmed up, broken in, if you will, rubber mouse pad. But just keep that in mind. If you feel like something's off, it might be your mouse pad, because every rubber mouse pad I've ever had has they're a little bit different. It has that little bit of warm up time. If you have a plastic mouse pad, the hard ones, you know what I'm talking about, those are always 100% consistent. They're always going to be the same every time. The problem with those is they wear out very fast. You need to really burn through those because once they start to wear down, they become different. Like every single time you go to play, every day or every few days, it will be a little bit different because they do wear down. There are pros who use the hard mouse pads for that reason, the consistency reason, but they do have to, like I said, replace them constantly. So that might be inconvenient for you. And that's about it, guys. It doesn't really matter what you do to warm up as long as it loosens up your hands and it's always the same. Also, be sure to not overdo it. You'll be able to feel clearly the difference between cold and warm. So once you hit that point, don't go beyond it, or you will enter your play session fatigued. So what do you guys do to warm up? Do you have any other tricks for consistency? Let me know. Anyway, like if you liked it, which I hope you did. Stay positive and have a great day. Peace out, guys.